Alright, we'll be solving systems, but this time by algebra using substitution, and we have 4 steps here, and we'll work through this problem, these 4 steps. Now there are 3 possibilities for systems. We could have a consistent system, that's when we get an answer. We could have an inconsistent system, which is when we get like a number, the variables all go away, and we get like a number equals something other than itself. And finally, we could get a dependent system, which is when we get a number equals to itself. So this is a consistent system. We'll go ahead and give it a shot. So what we're going to do is we're going to select one equation and one variable to solve for, and it really doesn't matter which one, but we want it to be as simple as possible. So I'm going to start with this equation for simply the reason that it looks to be simpler, looks easier than this one. And I'm going to choose y because it also looks easier to solve for y because there's nothing in front of it. So I'm going to solve for y. In this equation, I get y equals, and I'll just put this in order, negative 2x plus 7. I can't combine those, they aren't like terms. So now, doing the next step, replace that variable in the other equation. So this is the other equation. Now I just solved for y, which means I'm going to take all this stuff and put it in for y over here. So I have 5x minus 3. Now I'm going to want to do this in parentheses. Negative 2x plus 7 equals 23. And now I'm going to solve for the other variable. So I'm going to solve for x. I'm going to distribute this negative 3. Remember to take the negative with it. So I get 5x plus 6x minus 21 equals 23. Then I'll add the 21, and I get 44. And I get 11x divided by 11, and x is 4. So this is part of my answer. So now I'm going to back substitute. I'm going to go back up to here. And now that I know what x is, I can figure out what y is. So I'm going to put 4 into x right here. So y equals negative 2 times 4 plus 7. And y equals negative 8 plus 7, so I get y equals negative 1. And I'm hoping that this is the answer. In order to check to see if it is the answer, I'm going to go back to the very beginning, and to check, I'm going to replace x and y in both equations, or all of them, to check, just to make sure that I got it right. So in the first one, I'm going to have 5 times 4 minus 3 times negative 1. I'm going to ask, does that actually equal 23? Now, this is my answer. Don't box your check. This is just to check to make sure you did it right. And negative 3 times negative 1 is plus 3. And I get 23 equals 23, and we might be tempted to say, oh, got it. Well, I have to check the other equation too. So I'll check the 2x plus y equals 7, so 2 times 4. Plus y, so negative 1, because y is negative 1. And I'm asking, does this equal 7? So 8 minus 1, that's a 1. 7 equals 7, so I'm good. So this is indeed the answer. Alright, here's another example up here. I'm going to choose, now substitution is very good if, see, this equation, x is already solved for. So I don't have many steps. I take this, and I'm going to go ahead and replace x this time. So 5 times 7y plus 11 plus 7y equals negative 23. And I'll distribute that 5, so I get 35 plus 55 plus 4y equals negative 23. I'll subtract the 55. And I get negative 78, and I have 35 plus 4, so that is 39y. I'll divide by 39, and y equals negative 2. I think that's good. I'm going to back substitute, so I'm going to take this negative 2 and put it in for y right here, this first equation that I started with to figure out what x is. So x is going to be negative 14 plus 11, x equals negative 3. Alright, so what's my answer? Negative 3, negative 2. Always put x first, comma y. Now it's possible you might be solving for, say, a and b, in which case it's a, then b, or d and c, in which case c, then d, because alphabetical order. So alphabetical order is how you list your answers. Alright, here's another example. So I'm going to pick this first equation. Well, let's think, why do I pick this one to work with? Well, because I have a y right here that's going to be easy to solve for. All I have to do is subtract 4x. And that's looking pretty good. So y equals negative 4x plus 2. And I take this and put it in for y up here. Okay, so I am going to subtract the 8x, or not yet. I'm going to replace the y with negative 4x plus 2. And now I'll distribute the 2. So I have 8x minus 8x plus 4 equals 10. And 8 minus 8, that's 0. Well, that's possible to happen. But now look, I don't have any variables, and I have 4 equals 10, which is not true. That's never true. So what do I say here? Well, I say no solution. Even though I did all the math right, there's no problems here. And why is this? Well, this is called an inconsistent system. So if we were graphing these two different lines, these are linear, what I get is a pair of parallel lines that would never meet. And what I want to happen is, if I draw the lines, that they meet somewhere, and if they meet somewhere, that's the answer. And that's what we're doing, is we're finding out, well, where do these lines meet. Okay, last example, right here. Boy, none of these look that great. And that's okay, so I'm just going to choose y to solve for here. I could choose x, but I won't. I'll subtract the 5x, and now I can't actually do that, so I get 3y equals negative 5x minus 19. Now I'm going to have to divide by 3, and I got to remember that this 3 divides everything. Well, except that it doesn't, right? 5 and 19 are not divisible by 3. So what do? Well, I'm just going to leave it like that. It looks really nasty. I come back up here to this other equation. I'm going to replace y with that stuff. So I get 8x plus 3, parentheses, lots of stuff, that negative 5x minus 19 over 3. And this is why substitution can get really confusing, is because you've got this big, long, nasty thing right here. Now, in this case, the 3's are going to cancel out really nicely. So I get 8x, the 3 cancels, so plus negative 5x minus 19 equals negative 25. And I get 3x right here, minus 19 equals negative 25. And go ahead and add the 19. That's an x. So I get 3x, that's 19, equals, this is negative 6. Divide by 3. And x is negative 2. Well, that actually came out. Come back here. See, back substitute. So y equals negative 5 times negative 2 minus 19 all over 3. And I get 10 minus 19 over 3. And I get negative 9 over 3, which is negative 3. I should have been writing my y's the whole time. So what's my answer? Might be tempted to write negative 3, negative 2, but no. X first, so negative 2, negative 3 is the answer. This is a coordinate, so we want that whole thing. If I wanted to check, I would substitute up here. So what if I had selected X? So I'm actually going to erase all this stuff and just show that it doesn't matter. Get all of this. It's taking a little bit of a while. So we got -2, -3, right? And we're going to just do that whole problem again, except this time we're going to solve for the other variable. So, well, what happens here? I'm going to solve for x this time. So I subtract the 3y. And divide by 5. Again, the 5 doesn't actually divide those. So I'm going to substitute in, but not into y, into x, right? So I have 8 times -3y minus 19. Now it appears that this was not a very good choice, but I can still do it. Sometimes you're unlucky and you choose unwisely. That 8 distributes. It's 8 over 1. So I get -24y, and then I need to do that -19 times 8. So I'll go ahead and do that. I get -152. That's all over 5 plus 3y. I'm going to want to remember that's over 1 equals -25. Now, remember what Mr. Kane says. If you have fractions, clear them. So I'm going to multiply everything by 5. This 5 cancels, so this is all one group. So I get -24y minus 152. But I need to remember, it goes to this group and to this group right here. And nothing cancels right there, so I get a 15y. And over here, I get a -125. When I combine these, I get -9y and minus 152. And I'll add the 152. See, this way didn't work as nicely as the other. So if you have the same number here, you're going to want to go for that variable to start with. So what do we get? We have 152 minus 125. We have a 7 and a 27 divided by -9. And y is -3. Now I bag substitute in, right? That's going to go into here. So x equals -3 times -3 minus 19 all over 5. -3 times -3 is +9. And then we get -10 over 5. So x is -2. And same answer. So again, so you see, it does not matter which one you start with. Just do the math correctly.